I'd appreciate it. It's time for us to get going. So we will open this workshop today, Tuesday, September 17th, and we'll go ahead and get started. Looks like we have budget presentations. Number one on the menu is the library. So if you'll please come up and talk to us a little bit and tell us your name, please. Thank you.
Sorry, this is my first time doing this, so.
It's okay. It's our first time too. No.
I'm Brennan Sainsbury with the library. Sorry, I'm not even sure exactly what I'm reporting on. Is there anything specific that?
Is there any special needs in your budget or anything that you'd like to tell us about in your budget?
So the budget, it's the same budget that I proposed for last year, and it's been working actually really well for us.
Okay.
We recently increased our book buying budget, and it's been really great. The last year, we've been able to really increase our collection and do a lot more with our online library, which is what we've been trying to build mostly. And so that's kind of the biggest section of our budget. Goes to books and online books. But then I'm not asking for anything new or changing much for this year. I was just told I needed to report on it, and so that's kind of it. I moved some money around, but I haven't asked for any increases this year.
How is your online library program working?
It's working really well. It's through the app called Libby. I don't know if you've heard about it. And so that's because we're a county library and we're located in Providence. We're not super convenient for a lot of the county. And so we're really trying to push our online resources to get more people involved. And then we've seen a huge increase in our online resources. We've already passed last year's number of users, and we're not even through the year yet. So it's going really well.
Good. Very good. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I have a question. I don't know if you can tell us the number of library patrons that you have compared to online. How do those numbers are we looking at?
So we have 3,000 accounts for the whole, and that doesn't include individuals who use the library. We have a lot of family cards. So one family of 6 people could still just be under one card, but that is 6 people using the library. So our numbers aren't super accurate of how many people are actually using the library. And then for our online accounts, we have, I think we're up to 1,500. And that's up from last year. We just barely hit 1,000 last year, in all of last year. So we're already up 500 people from then. So we're just seeing it increase.
Okay, thank you.
What are the primary resources that patrons are using in the library? Is it research? Is it fiction? Is it what?
Yeah.
What do they usually? What's the primary?
The biggest one is fiction. Our biggest demographics is also our physical collection, who people we see in the library are children. We're right across from elementary school, so we see a lot of kids and families, and so they're using fiction, they're learning how to read, they're getting into reading and learning. And then online, we're seeing mostly adults use online, and they're also, fiction's our biggest one, but we do have quite a few nonfiction readers, but we're not used for a lot of research. It's mostly entertainment, I suppose, or escape.
Thank you.
I have a question about Libby. Do we pay for the licenses for those that use Libby? Do we have to pay for that as far as the county for our users to have that?
Yeah, so we do pay. So it's $6,000 a year to use for the app Libby itself, and then I pay for individual books, which comes out of the book budget. But then 5,000 of that 6,000 we get a content credit, so we're buying books with 5,000 of those dollars as well.
And that's unlimited users, it's not, so, okay. So as many people in the county use it, so it doesn't matter if it's dormant, if they sign up and don't use it?
No, it doesn't. It's not, it's a one cost for as many as.
For as many as okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but with that being a flat fee, the focus that the board has been talking about is promoting the online element and just general awareness through whatever means Brennan feels she has the capacity to push things through.
And have you found, oh, excuse me, Mark.
No, I'm
Sorry to
done.
interrupt you. Have you found that there's more demand for audio for Libby, or for people to be able to get actual book to read, like whatever it's called?
On Kindle.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
the actual, yeah.
on Libby.
Audio is more popular.
Audio is more popular for
But it does
the
both.
online.
Yeah, so we have both audio and regular
An e-reader.
e-reader. Yeah, but audiobooks are more popular online, which is nice because they also cost less. So it works out.
How much
well.
does a book cost to add to the Libby library?
It depends. It's probably averages $20 to $30. And then sometimes we have to rebuy books. Their licenses are only for either so long or so many checkouts, and so we're constantly having to rebuy the items. And then some, though, are, once they're purchased, we have them forever. So it just depends on the item.
Cool.
Okay, very good. Any more questions or anything?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay, very good. All right. Looks like JD, you're up for USU Extension. I'll try to not to hold that you're related to Nolan again.
That's
library budget.
going to be hard.
I was looking.
Talk soft.
Well, being a horticulturist, I can't help but make the joke about the family tree getting frozen.
Yeah.
While these guys get the tech figured out, my name's JD Gunnell. I'm the director of the USU Extension Office. We have 6 of our specialists or faculty that are university paid in our office. And then we also have 2 4-H coordinators that the county for, as well as 2 staff assistants. Our budget this last year was $272,000, and you'll see in your packet that this year we're asking for an increase of $16,000 to make it $288,000. The reason for that increase is for the cost of living increase that the state gave last year. We're playing catch up on salary.
I don't see that,
Yeah.
Judy.
I see this.
This is just our impact numbers for last year.
All right.
But the upcoming budget cycle, it'll show 288,000.
Okay.
But, about 80% of our budget goes into those 4 salaries, with a little bit in there for travel and professional improvement.
All right, JD.
You're good. Okay. So we'll just start with horticulture because it's the funnest. I've been working this season with Nibley City. We got a $40,000 grant from the Department of Agriculture in increasing community gardens in Cache County. We have one in Logan at Bridger Park, and this one in Nibley. I've been working with Roxy and Mike Christensen in building. We've got 30 raised garden boxes. We built 24 new ones. We put up a high tunnel greenhouse that's 24 feet by 48 feet. We've got 30 fruit trees we planted, and still working on expanding that. The location is the old Morgan Historic Farm, just north of Logan Coach. And so there's 10 acres there, and the city's trying to incorporate more agriculture awareness in that site. So that naturally fits with our mission statement. We also continue supporting the landscape industry. I do consultations with any of the landscape pesticide companies that have problems with spray and non-target poisonings. Teach a lot of gardening classes in the spring with the different nurseries, IFA. and anybody that asks me to come. And then Justin Clausen is our ag agent. He has found a really nice niche. He's got his aviation license for flying drones, and the farmers and ranchers around have picked up on that, so he'll go and do flyovers for their farms. He has infrared technology capabilities, and he can show drought stress in fields or hot spots for insect damage. He's also really busy doing workshops with beef producers and crop schools. You can see almost 200 attendings there. He's new to our group, but he's really hit the ground running. Our 4-H team is second to none. Our 4-H group up here is very well supported by the county, by the event center staff. You can see our folks up. Elise just had a baby, so she's out for a little bit. Courtney's about to have a baby. That's, I think, we have 4 of our staff pregnant and or having babies right now. So we have the largest dog club in the state, and that consists of one of our 70 different clubs. We have over 1,000 different youth participating. And so these guys are just running all over the county, not only just with different family clubs, but also Jenny Curl does a lot of STEM projects and working with the different school districts in the valley, doing after-school projects. One of the only positive things with COVID is we were able to offer 4-H STEM kits where people can come in and take them home and work on them with their kids. And that's something that we've kept going. And
Explain to me what,
a STEM kit,
I understand STEM, STEM, but what's
Yeah.
the A now?
arts,
Art, okay.
Arts.
yeah. So
Still calling it STEM?
it depends on who you talk. I'm not a purist, so I just say STEM. If you're in the group, they say STEAM now, but I'm not
I will-
smart enough.
I will have to say, I have a niece that has 2 daughters that participate in your dog club, and they love it.
Yeah, it's
They
crazy
show
how
their
big it's
dogs
gotten.
at the fair, and it's just been really great for them.
And I think a lot of that has to do with we are a rural community, but there are city kids. And that's one of the other aspects of the Morgan Farm program is this year we're doing garden stuff, but next year we're hoping that we piloted about 4 families raising animals at the Morgan Farm that didn't have land. So there was hogs and horses. And so we're writing another grant this year, hopefully to have permanent structures built out there for city kids to be able to raise animals.
That's awesome.
So 4-H is alive and strong. Jenna Dykeman in our office, she's a nutritionist and doing a ton of classes with diabetes. She just actually published a diabetes cookbook. I'll pass around, you guys can look at it. If you come in our office right now, it's just boxes of these. She also did a Levelette program for youth. During the summer, it was a 6-week program where they would contact and she would give them a new challenge each week on how to be fit, how to be healthy. And there was over 300 youth that participated in that. And then Tim Cady, he came to us from New York. He was actually an ambulance supervisor and worked for one of the universities in New York. He has come here and has really entrenched himself with the Bear River Health Department, the Veterans Center, and anybody that will talk to him about substance abuse or suicide awareness. I'm sure Bart will talk about this in his presentation, but he works really closely with the suicide concert. One of the crazy things with the university is we always are told to show impact or a return on investment when we talk to our constituents. And one thing that Tim shared with me, and it's hard to quantify, but he thinks that with his Narcan trainings, you can see over 466 Narcan kits were given out at trainings. He was telling me the other day he knows of about a dozen lives that were saved from that chemical. So it's pretty fun to watch the different successes.
So those 466 were here in Cass County? Just like agencies or citizens or what?
any group that asks him to come.
Really?
He did some EMT groups. He goes to hospitals. He'll talk to anybody that will talk to him.
Can you go back one, JD? I have a question. Go back. Yeah, go for that right there. The Wob Warming Center.
Yeah.
You guys made a $231,000 donation to the Warming Center?
No, so Tim is the director of the warming center.
Oh, okay.
He does that in his free time. And so he's gone out and that's what he's garnered from the community.
That's great.
And then with the fair, our numbers were up this year in all categories. You can see the different entries. We broke the $1 million mark with the livestock sale, and it was amazing. I usually go to our fair and then I'll go to Box Elder and kind of go back and forth. And one of the cool things is the sale this year, we had Nucor come to Cache County, which they haven't in the past that I know of. So we're really expanding that program. And I know I've said this before, but this county is very unique in how ingrained the county is with the fair. A lot of other places, they're either getting rid of their fairs or it's extension propping it up. And it's really nice that we get to be kind of just the help with the county carrying the most of the load.
Our animals are happier in Cache County. That's why Newcourt came here.
And then just, as I mentioned at the beginning, our budget was $272,000, going up $16,000 this year for cost of living increases. But I wanted to show on the return on investment, all the different grants each of us faculty are going after that help supplement the county programming that we do. So with that, I will answer any questions you guys might have.
Are you still finding a healthy source of grants?
Yeah, especially on the federal side, they're a lot harder to get, but when you do get them, they're very substantial. We have 2 grant writers with Extension that send us emails regularly on possible grants, and they help us write them.
Okay.
They're varied in how they come out, but yeah, they're still coming.
So on the diabetes cookbook and that, is she able to look at things like gluten or other aspects that citizens are facing in dietary restrictions and
Yes.
helping on that?
Yep.
That would be cool.
Yeah, gluten, obviously this time of year, she's at a conference this week, but our phones have been ringing off the hook with canning questions, lid testing, and I actually got on Facebook this morning and saw that you're not supposed to can white peaches, which I was supposed to do tonight, so. Probably saved our lives.
So I have a question. Can I grow a peach tree in Cache Valley?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a handful of new cold hardy varieties. And if you want to, I can give you a list right now if you want.
Love it.
What do you do with your produce that you grow in Nibley?
Currently, we haven't done any yet,
Oh, okay.
but the hope is that we'll find a 4-H club or somebody that will have a farm stand on site and sell to the public. And then that money would go back into the garden. But with 30 fruit trees, there's bound to be a lot of fruit.
What kind of trees are there then that you planted?
So selfishly, I planted a bunch of research, new varieties that we're not sure are cold hardy, but we think they are.
But what fruit?
We have 20 peaches, 15 peaches, 10 apples, pears, pluots, apriums, all the weird stuff.
What's an aprium?
Yeah.
It's an apricot and a plum hybrid.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fuzzy?
If you have that face, don't plant it.
I was gonna say, is it fuzzy?
It depends on the numbers of letters. So aprium is more apricot than plum, but a pluot is more plum than apricot. See, and these are the things that we just want to push on the community and say, look what's out there. Because when I was a kid, I didn't know what a peach was. There wasn't cold hardy peaches, and now there are. So,
I bought some berries the other day. They were orange, and they were called a sweet berry. What?
sweet Ann.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we have those planted
Do you?
at the community garden. They do really well here. They don't produce as much fruit, but what they do produce is amazing.
They had kind of a tart taste.
Yeah,
But
they
they
were
were
probably
good.
picked too soon then.
Were they? Okay.
No
Anything
wine
else?
before it's time, remember that?
That's right.
Thank you for what you do.
Okay.
Yeah, these guys are awesome. They bring a lot to the
Thank
county.
you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, JD. All right, it looks like the fairgrounds are up. Are they not here? Okay, then looks fair and rodeo? No? Okay. IT, Bart, you're it.
If you'll take me out
Yep,
of
go
order.
for it.
Micah, how many departments have we done the budget presentations? We received their budget presentations.
Thank you.
Look at my spreadsheet to get your exact number, but we have 2 more workshops.
I have two, so I can give Dave one,
We don't
please.
have any workshops
Thank you.
on the next council meeting because of BOE, and both meetings in October, we've got budget workshops. And that's it.
Oh,
And we will have listened to each, we will have received a presentation from each of them this time, because last year we didn't.
Yeah, we've got just about all of them. There's a few that we're missing. They're all pretty small. I think the biggest ones we still have left are clerk and elections. But those aren't even, I think those are the biggest ones we have left, and those aren't even that big. So
Yeah.
we've got not a lot of big departments left.
Has the attorney's office given us this yet?
Yes.
They did?
Yep, the attorney's office did present.
Will the public defender's office?
Yeah.
Defenders is one of the ones we're still, one of the October ones they have signed up. They are the last meeting, 22nd of October. I think the October workshop is gonna be just about all Bryce. With maybe one other. Yeah. Clerk, auditor, and elections. And,
Oh, he'll do the finance. Or the finance.
we have already done finance.
Doesn't read, you have to-
Wes did finance.
Oh, yeah, West did finance.
So Wes covers that one. But, so Bryson will pretty much have most of the workshop at the first meeting of October. And then council, and I'll cover that one as well. And then.
Executive.
The executive.
Executive,
And we can go either day. We'll be here both days.
yeah. Public defenders, I can pull it up. In fact, I've got it right here.
Sorry, Bart, I didn't mean to.
It's okay.
We have building and grounds, public defenders, we already did fire, visitors bureau.
Both parts.
Yeah, they're both Barts today. Yeah, so it's October 8th, we have the assessor, and then clerk auditor and council. And then October 22nd, we have building and grounds, public defender, and visitors bureau, and executive. And that'll be it.
right. Does that answer your questions?
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Bart. Thank you.
Okay. Just talk a little bit about my budget, but there's a couple of setup things. I want to impress upon this council what IT's priorities are and maybe some that they're not. You can read this for yourself, but basically the infrastructure. So we serve the county employees more than we serve the constituents. So we serve so that the county employees can serve, with one exception, that's the core application, which we serve to the public for our tax roll data. But basically, a whole lot of network server storage, applications, databases, websites. You can read all the stuff, and I could throw you 1,000 acronyms, but basically, if it's compute, we support it for the county.
Don't you run the TV translator, or are you over that?
Yes,
You do serve some of our constituents through that part.
true, through a contractor, and we can talk more about that, and it's in the budget if you have questions about that. We recently received quite a bit of ARPA money, and we're in the process of rebuilding the translator stuff right now. But yes, we took on the translator, I think, 3 years ago now. I was just on Mount Pisgah myself yesterday, cleaning up some of the stuff up there.
Yesterday rather than today.
We planned it that way, and we watched the forecast, and the weatherman was right for a change.
Come off that mountain in a hurry today.
Yes, we would have. And even on a good day, the wind blows up there.
I'm just wondering, are our county constituents well aware of that translator?
You know, you want to,
I've been there.
Tell them what happens when it goes down.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
get calls, but
well, I can tell you that in the last 3 years, we've got a generator up there running, so it's very rare that it's all down. But we are working on, in a lot of cases, 20-plus year old hardware that's in a failing state. In the last 3 weeks, we've replaced all the big amplifiers. So if you know anything about TV translation, first you get the site in there and you change it into a format that it can be amplified out this valley. Amplifiers lose their strength over time, so the signal strength goes down. The very first thing we bought with the ARPA money and replaced was the amplifiers, and that's a completed part of the project now. The feed stuff in there is still in works, but yes, we do the TV translator too. I don't believe this is not a comprehensive list because it couldn't fit on the slide. But we do focus on the last part of that is, you know, employee laptops and communication circuits and all those things. Those are the things that if we lose one of those high priority things, almost everybody is impacted. So that's what we focus on as our highest priorities. There are about 10,000 things below there, and I listed a couple of them: department-specific equipment, phones that get thrown in our laps, applications that are cloud-based that have issues, don't represent county-wide impact. We'll address them, but not as the highest priority. Because when the servers and the storage is down, I'm affecting everybody. I just want to make sure you know that we have priorities, and we have plenty of work below those priorities to consume all of our time and then some. These are the departments and sites that we support. And this may not be comprehensive either, but I bring this up, mostly the yellow ones are the sites. So we're all over this county in these various buildings doing things, working on towers, working on networking, working on all kinds of stuff. So we're spread very thin. And I wanted to call to your attention on this slide that IT hasn't grown headcount for 8 years. Every one of these has grown headcount plus in the last 8 years. We are stretched very thin right now.
What is your head count, Bart?
13, counting me. I do a lot of technical work. I like that. It keeps me on top of the technical toes. But if we continue to grow, and it's not even if, it's IT will need to expand in the coming. I don't plan that for 2025, but you can count on it.
Just for their benefit, Bart, how many do you have here versus out at the?
We have 3 at the sheriff's office, and if you think about the employee count, that's about half of our employees. They're doing the desktop device support. We do a lot of the infrastructure work. For instance, we bought server farms this year. Our capital expenditures this year were very high because we had to replace our server farms, which had ended of life this year. There's 3 up here, there's 3 down there. We will pioneer and develop that up here, and then we will help them down there to build those. So when you look at infrastructure, we're probably primary up here. They do a ton down there, but we basically architect and engineer the solutions for the whole county on the admin campus. Questions about that? I'll take them as I go. I don't want you to ask a question and go backwards. I'd have to figure out how to do that technically. Okay. So I talked about a couple of things before this, the things that influence my budget. Obviously capital-based. Some years we're going to need tons of servers, some years we're going to need to rebuild networks, et cetera, and everything tends to die over time in the technology environment, okay? So just know that we're wise stewards, and we try to bleed all the life out of every piece of equipment we can. People, facility growth. I talked about the people enough, but when we add facilities or when we change significantly facilities, that's a big impact to IT. If you think about adding one head count or one facility, it really does take the IT village to build those facilities especially. But every head count we add adds a PC I have to support. I have to buy it, procure it, charge that department back, and then I have to support it ongoing. So as we grow and grow and grow, IT is going to have to grow a little bit to do that. We do a ton of project and productivity type of work, whether that's consulting with departments one-on-one or actually doing projects like CORE or ASET or intranet web redevelopment, all the stuff that we do. The scope of work, and that's where I was going to address the TV translator, so thank you for having that in. A couple of years ago, we were given the TV translator. I think it might be pushing 3 years now. We had to take a deep breath about headcount at that point to say, can we do this as IT? It's not our sweet spot. It's not networking, it's RF communications. There's some convergence there, but I can tell you we all collectively took a deep breath and said, okay, let's try to do this without adding a person. We have a TV translator contractor that's been with the county probably in excess of 50 years. We quit counting. It caused a stack overflow on our calculators. IT joke. Anyway, he lives in Brigham City, and he's been doing this since the late 70s for us. That's great, and that's dangerous, because there's nobody behind him, and nobody wants to be behind him to learn about TV translators. It's a fading breed of individual, if you will. He's been great. He's in his upper 60s. We're a little bit concerned what we're going to do about that going forward. So over the last couple of years, I've put together a strategic team out of my limited resources to try to learn that industry. And we're getting there. Hopefully Mike hangs on for a little while and we'll get all that intellectual property out of him. We haven't perfected the Vulcan mind melt yet, but we're working on it. Inflation, cost of operation. I just can't do what I could do 5 years ago with the same amount of money. Everything has just exploded cost-wise. So the cost increases in my budget, a lot of they're just inflationary.
I have a question.
Yes.
The TV translator, like, do we broadcast TV? Is it just a public service station, or is like, I'm confused. I didn't know we had a TV translator that was ours.
Mostly the Salt Lake stations
Isn't
that's
it
come
just
through.
what comes from Salt Lake?
It's all the broadcast, Class A, they call them in the industry, broadcasters, so KSL, NBC,
So you can put an
CBS,
antenna up rather than paying for satellite.
But then there's Cozy and Comet and Dabble, and I mean, I think we have 40 stations. At the very end, if you have enough time and patience with me, I'll show you our station list and maybe some of the difficulties we're having right now.
But you have to have an antenna to get most of those, right?
You have to have an antenna, but we are so strategically well placed up at Mount Pisgah that Preston, Idaho feeds off of our translator to pick up stations and boost them. TV translator is like a cult because there's one in every remote area in the whole western United States. I've gone to the last two, NTV, National Television.
Oh, not MTV?
And
Oh, okay.
but I can break, no. I've gone to the last two of them, and it truly is mind-boggling what these people do and what they deal with. And they are just small mom-and-pop shops. There's a guy out of Cortez, Colorado that helped me strategically plan the stuff that's up on Pisgah right now at the last two TV conferences, because it's just a family. You join them and they accept you, and they are so excited to have an IT geek come in there that can talk what I talk. I've already actually given out our TV translator code that I'll show you at the end of this to other people. They're not necessarily counties. A lot of them are special districts or private industries because they can't believe what we built here to show that our TV translators are online, and I'll show you that before we finish.
Bart, there's also an important part that needs to be mentioned here about the importance of the TV translator. In discussions with Bart, was like, why can't we just get rid of it? I mean, can't everyone get online for their content? And he actually mentioned that there's a security component, that if the internet literally goes down, that we can actually communicate with Salt Lake and other folks through that TV translator?
So let's talk about that. That's a future, but it's coming. As we build the TV translator up on Mount Pisgah, there's a new spec out, ATSC. You've probably seen that acronym on your TVs. That's the type of tuner you have. 1.0 came out in the early 2000s. That's when television went digital. Before then, it was rabbit ears and analog. In the early 2000s, you had to go buy a little box if you wanted to use your old analog TV. We are at a crossroads for the very next standard, and it's a quantum leap beyond that digital, and it's called 3.0, ATSC 3.0. And it brings a two-way capability to television. So up until now, it's been you get a TV signal, you show that signal on your TV. In the future, your TV will be able to report back its serial number, its make and model. And if you expand that to cars, automobiles will be able to return back, if they are on the ATSC 3.0 spectrum, their VIN. More information than you'd probably ever want to share is going to be started to be sharing over the television waves in the next decade. We are positioning ourselves with this rebuild to be on board to do that with the rest of the country. And there's some federal level conspiracy theorists that believe that it will help our national defense. Because if you think about space and the sky, if a foreign entity or somebody decided to take out a few key satellites they would disable our military, our law enforcement, they would disable our country. Just taking out a few half dozen satellites. The feds want to start looking at the TV translator stations as something that they can use as a backup communication plan for them. And it's perfectly positioned to do so because they already exist. It's not something we have to develop, and this ATSC 3.0 two-way spec makes it reasonably accomplishable. That was a rabbit hole that we went down, and I apologize.
But there are several people in our county that don't have high-speed, don't really have the ability because the broadband isn't there.
Well, if you're out in the county, you either use the TV antenna or you subscribe for satellite because there's no cable out there or anything.
And it won't be a new internet.
Yeah.
It will be a two-way communication. It will never have the bandwidth of fiber and wire in your home, but it will augment the internet for sure. Non-IT influences, we've talked about some of these already, but we make people more productive. One of the things that I am most proud of in my time here is the ability to drive costs down. We have a capital budget this year that's going to be in surplus because we used retail values, and I will do this every year I'm here. So I'm explaining this to tell you that when I flush money back into the general fund that I didn't use, it's not because we didn't buy something. It's because we got shrewd in our negotiations and we worked the vendors down and we get the best price we possibly can. That's what that bullet's supposed to be. Technical consulting, development, innovation, our point-to-point network that ARPA is funding is going to be incredible. The core stuff we've built a lot of cool stuff here that pretty much just stays behind the scenes.
So Bart, the $155,000 that's in your new budget for
Yes, ma'am.
capital expenses?
Excellent segue into this slide.
Okay.
Up on the top of this slide, I want you to pay attention to the three questions up there. What gear needs support? What's the currency or refresh need of that gear? And what would hurt the most if that system became unavailable? There's four main things up there that were part of that first slide that said these are our priorities. The first one is our compute power. That's our server farm. That's the things where the applications run. We have storage behind that's like the disk in your computer, the hard drive, if you will. We have networking, and we have backup and disaster recovery. Those are our very top priorities. And the network, the capital project you're asking about is the fifth or sixth one down, that wireless 5+2. We expect to get 7 years out of that. We usually get 5 years support and extend to 7. If you follow that line across, I keep an Excel spreadsheet that goes back to the day I started and goes out way further than 2029 that has my refresh schedule for the critical hardware components that fill those 4 buckets above. If you look at the square for 2025, you'll notice that the line lining up with wireless starts there. That's the 150 grand I'm going to need to build a wireless network that covers all of the sites except the sheriff's office in the county. It's what's running your iPads right now. If I lose that, if that project were to be canceled, I can't run this project any longer. 2 years ago, it went end of service life, the one you're on now. The management interface is going to go, it's going to die on the vine. I don't have a choice to not replace that this coming year. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
So if anybody's interested in seeing all the geekdom behind that lower level, it's pretty cool. And Wes actually asked me to bring that up today. Maybe because he likes the way I do it, or maybe he just wanted me to tell you that I'm thinking way outside the 5-year minimum. I think I have planned out to 2040 or something close to that on this spreadsheet. Very little changes here. If you look at the very bottom line, the one in 2028 will scare you half to death at $610,000. If you look at that bottom line, it's the phone system. We spend about $250,000 on the last one. I usually add a little. The next one's probably going to cost $300,000+ when we need to change that phone system out. Big component of my capital improvement plan.
I like this, though, the way it allows you to look ahead.
It's a
so
Gantt chart.
Not a surprise.
That's all it is a Gantt chart showing me the time. I can predict the future because I've recorded it. For the critical hardware, anyway. Questions on that? Okay. My budget, if you look at it has gone down significantly this year. That's because I don't have the capital expenditures this year that I potentially will next year, or in 2026, next time we do this. Mine fluctuates based on end of service lives and various components, and it's just going to peak and valley. And next year we got lucky, we're going to valley, and I hope that aligns with a good budget. This is typically what my budget looks like. It gets to be a bit of an eye chart, but I actually have each of these categories broken down into what I'm spending in them. The only thing really significant that I've asked for this year beyond the capital one that you've already asked about is the reinstatement of an intern. So that's being treated as a new head count. You can look back at every year prior to last year, which was a one-time budget cut that I made. And we always leave that money in for an intern because I've got some relationships with the AIM group up on USU campus and some things that we can bring some interns in, give them a little bit of technology exposure and help us with some of the grunt work, if you will, on the projects. The rest of my budget, the increases or decreases are going to be because we've discontinued a service or found a cheaper way to do it, or licensing costs are going up, or something else attributable to inflation.
Bart,
Yes.
on that seasonal employees, 20,000 requests, is that the intern?
That's the intern for us. And we typically use them for, the last few have gone to the sheriff's office when we had massive wiring projects and we just need people to roll around in the dirt or up in the attics and pull wire through small holes and feed it down a crack in the wall. We have flirted around, and I do want to start bringing interns in for the county fair. We think we need the manpower there, and we think that would be good for them. A lot of that comes down to my time and ability to manage an additional person. Sometimes I don't have that.
I have a question, and this could, I know some of our other budget things were not calculated correctly, and Brittany, maybe you can answer this. On his employee benefits, it went up by 30%. Is that because of the new calculations for insurance? Like, I thought we had certain things and then we were going to add in all that at the end, but is that already included?
So in the requested budget, we did include the market and merit increases and the benefit increases for the insurance.
Okay.
And then in the tentative budget, we removed that so we could see what that cost was.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I wish I could allow my people not to get sick and not need benefits, but
No, I mean, the percentage didn't make sense to me, not the, having the benefits.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that most department heads will probably tell you. They're in very little control of people costs other than adding people, because it's all just canned in. I spend very little time on that top section and all my time on the bottom sections where it's actually services and places that I can make a difference. But, that make sense?
Yep,
Questions?
thank you.
We're almost done. Kind of a closing slide to put a dose of reality into it. IT's great and we're in everybody's business, but we have to never lose sight that the technology will fail us. It's just part of the game. It's not a reflection on how good my staff is or myself or strategic planning or anything like that. Electronics fail, and all it would take is an EMT device in this area, and we would lose a lot of our capability to do electronic stuff. So Will's not here today. I wasn't sure if I'd be presenting with him, but during the emergency management planning at the EOC and stuff, we really emphasized the need for a continuity of operations that doesn't rely so heavily on technology. It's like that when the power goes out. What do we do? Well, you should have a plan when the power goes out, is the main thing. And you should be able to survive without the power. You need to treat IT that way a little bit. The bottom bullet is, is the answer to everything outsourcing? No. Typically, it's less efficient. Typically, you bring people in that spend way more time learning your environment than actually doing the work for you. But there are places, and outsourcing, in my opinion, has just become go to the cloud, right? Go to the cloud and buy an application. Go to the cloud and get this. Go to the cloud and get that. And we've done a lot of that lately, and I've cautioned against a lot of that lately. Let's just do it where it makes sense and consult IT before we do that, make those type of decisions. We'll never want to be the final vote, but we want a seat at that table to make people say, what happens to your data when you move it to the cloud? What happens when your cloud vendor goes away? We'll put some realistic questions into that equation and give you an opinion, but we recognize we're not the final say there. You all are the final say there. Okay?
Thank you.
That's about all I have. Questions?
I don't know if this is your department or if this would be another department, but who does the pricing for the contracts for the municipalities and using the GIS system?
GIS does not fall under IT in this county. It does in many counties it falls under IT, but that would be Development Services, Stephen,
Okay.
at this point. We are putting a new GIS server in. We work hand in hand with them, but we don't make those types of decisions with them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Bart? Okay, great. Thank you, Bart. We appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Brittany, do you have something to add, give to us here?
Thank you.
Thank you. Abe?
Yeah.
So Bart, are you doing the fairgrounds and the fair and rodeo?
I am,
Okay,
yes.
awesome. Thank you.
If it's okay with everyone here, I'd like to start with the easier of the three, and that would be either the fair and the rodeo. So how about we start with the rodeo budget?
Okay.
Get the easy ones out of the way. So I don't know if Lamont has come and reported how the rodeo did this year or not yet. I don't believe he has, but I will tell you that the rodeo financially did very well this year, and we're projecting doing even better moving forward. As far as what changes there are to the budget, there's a few things that we have shifted around. With the introduction of 4 nights of rodeo this year, that has increased some of our expenses slightly. We increased ticket prices by $1 a seat this year to compensate for some of those increased costs that we had this year to make that happen.
Did all the seats get filled? Did you have sellout?
So we sold out Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We sold 2,300 roughly, around 2,300 seats, which is about half for Wednesday night.
Okay.
The difference with Wednesday night this year and Wednesday night in previous years is previous years, in order to get people in the stands on Wednesday, we was giving seats away to the youth with a paying adult. This year, we didn't give anything away, and it still had the same number of tickets, so that increased our profits or our revenue line some. There are some, going forward, there are some increases with PRCA, there's some increases with Legacy Rodeo. You know, everybody's costs are going up, and that's to be expected, and those are reflected. I think there's some minor increases that you're gonna see in the rodeo budget, but all in all, our hit on the general fund, looking at 2025, has decreased substantially, so I think that's a good thing to, the bottom line is looking good, I guess is where I'm going with that.
Can you just dial in on two of them? The rodeo security and judges, that is out, right? I bet then the rodeo queen contest doubled, so just talk on those if you would.
I'm gonna have Cassidy talk about the rodeo queens. If you wanna come up and address that.
Yeah.
Cassidy's the one that keeps tabs on all the rodeo stuff for Lamont.
Okay, so in the past, we have not had contracts for our sponsors, and now we have, this year we have, that's why I think the general fund is hit so less, but we have done handshake deals with people that have, like, give the queens gift cards, and the attorney's office has, you know, advised us not to do that in a contract. It would be better off to just have them donate the money, and then we give the queens, you know, gift cards or whatever. I think the security and judges.
Yeah, that's out.
It went from
Yeah, it's
4,000
out.
to 0.
And I'm not exactly sure why it went to 4,000 to 0, because we're still going to need judges.
That's what I thought.
I think judges are now included in the PRCA.
Oh, because they were moved.
Yeah, they were moved
Yep, to the-
from that line item to, they're covered by the PRCA.
Professional services.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So some of the changes that you're gonna see are related to the new standards that you guys set for standardizing GL codes. So that certainly is gonna, has messed with my mind a little bit as I look at last year's budget comparing this next year's budget, and numbers aren't matching, so. Yeah, I apologize for not having that off the tip of my tongue, but I forgot.
No problem. You found an answer for us.
Any questions on the rodeo budget? I think that one's, both the rodeo and the fair budgets, I think, are pretty cut and dried. They don't change too much from year to year. Like I mentioned, we are anticipating a $1 increase per seat again this coming year to cover some additional fees that seem to keep coming up, so.
Art, I know that there was a while back some conversation about raising rent on storing, you know, when people come in, storing of animals or anything like that. Would that have effect on this year?
That won't have an effect in the rodeo budget. We'll talk about that when I get to the fairgrounds budget.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, next let's go to the fair budget. Here again, overall, we're looking really good. Our revenues have increased slightly. We're anticipating increasing the cost for our vendors this year. They've had a really good deal at $300 per vendor for a 10 by 10 square for their vendor booths. We're looking at increasing that to $400 for next year as we compare ourselves to the Cruise In and to Summerfest and some of those bigger events where we need to raise our rates to be in line with where everyone else is at.
Are they allowed to come in on Wednesday and participate on that, or are they just Thursday through Saturday?
So many of them were open Wednesday as well.
So
We
with that
encourage
fee,
them-
they can come in on that, so.
Yes, we encourage them to be open Wednesday, not all of them were. I think as that rodeo continues to increase in popularity on Wednesday night, also having the carnival open Wednesday night, we had a pretty good crowd down there. We also had our entertainment that night. So we put on a full fair, although we started later in the day.
Didn't I hear there were some people having trouble with getting carnival tickets or something on that? They were trying to.
So the carnival tickets there's a limited supply of pre-sale tickets. And I don't remember the exact number that the carnival allows pre-sale at a discounted rate. And once they're gone, they're gone.
Okay.
So yes, there were some people that were, after the fact had not gotten their discounted tickets. Happens every year.
Wondering why it was, so I understand if it was a limited amount.
Yeah. So,
I have a
yes.
couple questions about the fair. I'm looking at the personnel costs, and there are no full-time employees, but our employee benefits went up 150%. And then part-time employees went up by 46%. Like, is there been a big change? Are you gonna have more? Are you asking for additional part-time employees? And I don't understand the benefits line because part-time employees don't get benefits, right?
Right.
So that, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, right. And like Double T said, I don't pay attention a lot to those top lines because that's really outside of the scope of what I have any control over. But we do not have any full-time employees. We don't generally have even any part-time employees as far as the rodeo goes. We do have contract employees though. We utilize locals to help. They're the ones that run out and untie the calves and do different things during the rodeo.
Yeah, there's seasonal employees, which is 10,400, which was the same as last year. And then it's part-time employees went from 8,200 to 12,000. And I guess we can ask Brittany and maybe Brittany and Wes know some of those numbers, but it just, the percentages don't add up and it just doesn't look quite right.
We have over the last several years, we do have some expenses in those lines. So I won't say that we don't have any, but they're very limited in number. And let me get to this. I don't have a breakdown of those right now.
Okay.
But I can certainly find out.
Yeah, I think as we are doing this budget, we're gonna need to look at everything. And I'm not saying you don't need them, just, it doesn't make sense when there's no full-time employees, but to have the benefits line went up 150% for this next year.
What's covered under benefits? Is that FICA and? So that would be some of those expenses would be your FICA and
For the part-time
payroll taxes, some of those types of things.
Okay.
So Bart.
Great question though,
As
yes.
a similar question on that, so travel, if you look across on the line item on travel on fair, you haven't had a lot of expense on that in 22 and 23, and then just kind of wondered why that's gone up.
So we've reclassified.
Oh, that's just from reclassification.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, reclassified some of the things because we arrange Airbnbs or motels for some of the judges and, some of those people. And so that's been reclassified.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
But there's professional and technical, that's a new expense added onto here, $10,000. Under professional services.
Close to the top, it's in the second section at the top.
So I believe that is a reclassification as well. I'm gonna have to rely on, yes. Okay.
That's where they went, huh?
Yep.
That's because you guys passed that policy saying that contracted work needed to go under professional and technical, so they had it under a different line item
Okay.
for previous years. Now,
Okay.
with that policy, it needs to.
I noticed that carnival contribution went to 0, so that was reclassified up into that other.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's just our fair judges, livestock judges, horse show judges, things like that.
Okay.
So, looking at anything else that may be,
Yeah, the uniforms went up 166% from, is 0 spent so far this year, 1,500 budgeted for last year.
yep, let
and
me.
4,000.
So, historically, we buy shirts for our volunteers, chairman, vice chairman, and a couple of years ago, we started just buying those kind of every 3 years. So we buy them for everybody, and then we won't buy them for the next 3 years. So this is the year to replace the shirts.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, so that, I want to go down to that 621 because you brought this up. Carl, was the carnival miscellaneous services. So that number was in the budget when I took this budget over. It's not something that, so that's carnival contribution, what we would pay the carnival. We haven't paid the carnival for a number of years. They pay us to the tune of about $60,000 to be here. So we're going to take that right out of the budget. Any other questions on that one?
I did, Bart,
Yes.
I noticed your advertising has gone down for, for 25, or almost 50%. So are you changing the way you advertise, or is it not necessary, or how does that?
So, yeah, good question. We're not changing anything in the way we advertise. We're changing the way we fund it. We're taking half of it out of the fair, half of it out of the rodeo.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Great. Okay, now we're getting into a budget that I know a little bit more about. I'm new to, when Betty left, Betty had done both of these for years and years and years. So when we lost that institutional knowledge that Betty took with her, she tried to open up my brain and pour it in, but part of it missed. So, so I'm learning, and as we go over the next year or two, we're building a more itemized budget so we can catch these things and be able to realize or understand what is coming before it gets to us. So we're working on that. All right. So fairgrounds overall is doing well. Our budget has stayed, I think, pretty consistently flat with some minor increases. I will say that one of the things, and this is also impacting our rodeo budget, is we're seeing some large increases in some of the fees and services that we are getting from Logan City. Our trash is expected to go up 25% effective the first of this month. With our landfill fees, our power has gone up substantially over the last few years. Water is continuing to increase. All these fees are building up. We're anticipating a 10 to 12% increase in our utilities and power, electrical costs. So one thing that we use a lot of at the fairgrounds is power. Arena lights and just all the utilities, all the hookups and everything else that we have. So that's where you're going to see some pretty sizable increases. Natural gas, Dominion or whatever they're called now, Embrel. I think, you know, is been talking about some substantial increases in natural gas. Although it sounds like the governor and the legislature are trying to tamp that down. But all those things have been piling up, and we've been trying to keep those to a minimum, those increases to a minimum. But you know, we're really bound by what is requested. Ambulance standby fees have gone up 80% this year. So that doesn't have a lot of impact on my fairgrounds budget, but it has a pretty good impact on the rodeo budget. As an overall percentage, it's not huge, but when you look at that line item and see an 80% increase, that's, you know, that's substantial. I don't believe, Brittany, is that in this? Is that in the proposed budget? I'm sorry, the rodeo, the ambulance standby fees, or is that in the? But did we get the new fees after their increase? I guess is where I'm going with that. Some of these rodeo and fair and rodeo fees we're just learning as we just finished the fair and rodeo, so they're fresh in our minds and we can see what our actual costs have been. But
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. One of the things that I've worked hard to do over the last several years is get a fleet of equipment that is more updated, takes less maintenance costs. So as we look at capital, some of the things that we're requesting is, you know, we're replacing some things that are end of life. We have been able to decrease our 250 line with newer equipment. We're not putting Band-Aids on things to keep things running, and that has made a huge difference, both in productivity of staff, because we're not spending time fixing equipment, but also in the bottom line on the 250 budget to not have to maintain, you know, 15-year-old equipment that it should have been retired several years ago. Beyond that, we're anticipating, and I will be bringing to you next month, I hope, at the first meeting in October, a fee increase proposal for all of the, not all, most of the fees at the fairgrounds. We're looking at, as we've called around and done some surveys, we're looking at a 20% increase on most lines, you know, most of the things that we do. Some of those, the horse stalls we increased last year by 50%. We'll leave that one alone. And there's some others that may not change quite that much, some that may change more. But as we call around and do these surveys, we see a need as we compare ourselves to others to make that fee increase to be more competitive, number one, and also to help cover our expenses at the fairgrounds. We're a park. Parks are not really intended to ever fully cover their operating expenses, but we can minimize that, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. So. Any specific questions on any of those lines that I can address for you?
How are you able to, I'm quite impressed, your total capital investment line is less than half of what it was the year before. Is that because you're catching up on the on your equipment upgrades and things, or what?
That's some. As we look at what our capital projects are, you know, this year some of the projects that we have anticipated, it's just a down year. Next year, you know, it may be one of those years where we're up a little bit, or 26. But much like Double T, I've got a long-range plan, and you try and balance those out as much as you can. Certainly with the rolling stock or equipment costs, you try and do that. But some years are going to be higher, some years are lower based on you know, purchase dates and things like that. But there's a lot of needs at the fairgrounds, I will tell you that. We have an indoor arena that I had originally put in money in this budget to put a new roof on that. I don't know what that number is, a hard number. I'm anticipating that that would be at least $500,000. After that, more work that needs to be done would be to go in and tear all the drywall off and change the way the insulation is applied inside. That's probably another $500,000, I think. And then in the end, we still have an old building that just doesn't really meet the needs of the community anymore. That building was built, I know it's not that old in terms of buildings, but it was built on a shoestring budget. It was not designed very well, and it really doesn't meet the needs of our customers or the county anymore. You know, our county fair shows steers in there. This year we showed all of our livestock in there, and it's too small, it's hot. I'm working with a mechanical engineer to try and come up with some ways that we can ventilate that better. Not sure we're going to really find a solution to it. We get humidity trapped in the walls, which is then causing the drywall to fall off the walls. And there's not a solution to that. So long term, I didn't put those projects in my budget because it's the feeling of the advisory board that at some point we're better off to knock that building down and build something that's more useful. That's a pretty major expense, and I'm not sure how we're going to fund that. Certainly not in lean years, you know. But as we look forward, those are some of the things. There are some major expenses that I see on the horizon, that probably being one of the big ones. As we look at potentially relocating the fairgrounds, what is our transition plan, and how do we still maintain what we have and use what we have, yet focus on a move? You know, what does that look like? Part of this budget is a master's thesis. I'm working with USU to come up with what a transition plan would look like moving forward. You know, this is not something that I feel can be moved on quickly, although I do believe we need to be looking at property and coming up with a location, because contiguous acreage is going to be harder to find, and it's just increasing in value as the county continues to grow. What I'm hoping this study by this master's student will do is take the numbers that we can go back through this AI program that looks at attendance at different events and say, okay, we know that we did have 80,000 people that attended the fair this year. We do know that from this software. 54,000 of those were unique individuals, but they made 80,000 visits. What does that look like as far as parking? You know, if we're out in the county somewhere, we can't park on city streets. How much parking do we need to be able to accommodate? So we need to answer some questions first, but I think once we have some of those questions answered, I would like to work with you to start developing a plan and looking ahead to a potential move 30 years, 40 years, 50 years down the road for our grandkids and their kids to have a place to go. Where we're at now really is tough.
And plant trees now, so they look like it does now.
Exactly. You know, we plant trees, we plant grass, we develop a water feature, we try and recreate some of what we have now that make our fairgrounds such a jewel. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen overnight. Pioneers did it for us 150 years ago. Yeah. It's time for us to start looking at doing it for future generations.
Thank you, Bart. I appreciate you looking forward to that. I think sometimes we get lost in the moment and say, let's fix the problem that we have now instead of looking forward and what we can do forward. So I appreciate you looking at that. I do have one question on here. On the fuel, that's an increase of 30,000, was that?
So that was formerly in 250.
Okay.
And according to your,
Okay,
yep, so that's been pulled out and moved in its own category, so.
thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions for Bart?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you, Bart.
Y'all have a good night.
I really appreciate Bart's excellent management. of a
Yeah.
Significant asset of the county.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bart.
Thank you. All right, I guess that takes care of all our presentations, correct?
Looks
So
like it.
we will adjourn until 5 o'clock then. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Appreciate it.
You know, I miss.
Catherine,
Yeah.
I pulled up, I was able to find last year's for the library, it was 235,400. Can't remember what this year's
Yes.
request
That would have taken care,
Yeah.
that was such a,
Thanks, you guys.
thanks, Bart.
Appreciate what you do.
Bart, thank
You have a
you.
tough job.
Hey, I'm
I know, I hope you don't-
I still have a little bit. I sold my bees, but I still have a little honey.
I haven't reached out to any other
I hope you
department.
don't feel attacked when we ask.
Oh, no, not at all.
Was I supposed to have let her know?
I expect
not bad,
questions.
we know it.
I apologize if I
I was
don't.
just gonna say,
No, she said this was her
You're
first.
awesome.
this is a learning process.
Was I supposed to let her know more about it, or
Everybody else is just. So if I don't have the answers, I'll find them out.
parts or departments?
You know, Bart, I did, have one question, you know,
How everybody else gets help.
I mean, I'll follow up with her, she did great.
She did, yes.
The only thing missing is she's, at the board meeting, she's got great graphics and charts about the questions we asked.
Yeah, like, I mean, she had all the answers.
Could
It would have been.
Same thing up and then per spot on.
know that east
I'm
side
sure
of
the
the
finances-
fairgrounds, the
it-
rodeo
she
arena,
come
and
together with
stuff
finance, they
like
would've-
that.
Oh, yeah, that's, I'm surprised we didn't get,
Funds
you know,
for
this
Yeah.
for the library. Okay.
What's our long-term vision for
Yeah,
that property?
right.
You know, we've got a $7 million investment in an event center. That will, I don't envision the county ever giving that up,
No,
right?
yeah,
Probably
right.
want to keep that, and
Yeah.
I still see events like Summerfest and the car show and certain things happening there. Maybe that, so maybe rather than sell that, we develop that as parking,
Okay,
because
that's
parking
good.
is one of those things that Logan City is after me bad right now. That's been,
I can tell you what to tell Logan City.
We're not, yeah, we're all, everything's turned off, right? Yeah, it really depends what our vision for that's gonna be. You know,
Awesome.
it is a fantastic location for Summerfest, it's a good location for the car show. It's a good location for a lot of things.
Where's the good location for fairgrounds then? Serious, let's get.
So,
We
by
need
the
trees planted, we
so,
need water, we need, I mean, what is the fairgrounds? What is the fairgrounds without trees and the open canals and?
After the conversation with Logan City a couple weeks ago that I had with the mayor and several of their department heads, I pulled up the parcel viewer and I'm looking at the map thinking, okay, you know, we could go south because there's a lot of land between Nibley and Hiram that looks pretty good. But that gets us farther away from the core of the county, you know, so let's look north. So I pulled it up and there is stuff north and then I hear them like parking